Good evening, Namaskar. Welcome everyone to this event of panel discussion, which has been organized under the aegis of All India Educators Forum. I am Mani Chaudhary, and today I'll be hosting this remarkable event. So, teaching is a very noble profession which shapes the character, caliber, and future of the individual. But effective teaching and effective learning can only take place if we are going to ensure effective classroom management. We are all here today together to ponder over the most important challenge which we as teachers encounter almost every day. The topic is classroom management. So, what is classroom management? What it is all about? We are all dealing with this every day. So, as per me, classroom management is all about maintaining good relations with the children. It is all about how we relate, how we speak, and how we interact with the children, how we guide them, how we care for them, not even inside the class, but also sometimes outside the class. Overall, there are some important elements of classroom management, just like I'll just quote few of the features, few of the important elements. The first one is teacher student relationship. The second one is student engagement in the class. And the third one is how far is the teacher aware of the needs of the specially abled children. There are a lot of factors which also affect our classroom management, like the size of the classroom, the strength inside the class, and what class rules we have made. For example, are we specifically clear that how the children are going to behave in the class, and if the children are also aware of the same thing, do they exactly know how do they have to behave inside the class, how are they going to clear with their doubts, and many such elements. How effectively are we planning for the specially abled children is also another important element. And of course, we should be using advanced technology to ensure effective learning to ensure effective learning so that it takes place in the class properly. And if we are paying proper attention towards all these elements, I'm sure we will create a safe learning environment in the class. We will ensure great productivity from the side of the children, and we will get more teaching time also, and we can also control disruptive behavior in the class, and this will also help us in controlling the level of stress which we are facing every day. So, definitely, classroom management is all about creating an environment in which we can ensure academic achievements along with the social and moral growth of the child. Things are changing very rapidly. Things are changing very quickly, and I think there was a different kind of relationship between the teacher and the student many years back. Like there was some kind of hesitation, some kind of distance between the teacher and the student, and this is not required anymore. Now, what we need is a close bonding between the teacher and the student, and this is going to help us a lot in ensuring effective learning. So today in this panel discussion, we have with us some of the most experienced educators from Pan India who will share their experiences, their opinion with us. And towards the end of this panel discussion, I'm sure every one of us, including the ones who are sitting on the other side of the screen, will have a great learning, and we will take away a lot of new practices to implement in our classrooms. So to begin with, we have with us Ms. Bhumika Sabarwal. She is teaching Spanish language to the students of International Board. And with 7 years of teaching experience, I'm sure she has a lot to share with all of us. Today, she'll be talking about what is inclusive learning, and she will also share some strategies to make your class inclusive. So over to Ms. Bhumika.
Thank you, Mani ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be on panel today to discuss about classroom management. My name is Bhumika Sabarwal, and I am a Spanish teacher at the Shri Ram School, Malsuri in Gurugram. So to start with, I would like to quote Verna Mayus, and this is a quote that I resonate with very strongly. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. So, inclusion requires the teachers to believe that all students have something important to offer in the classroom and that we are better off learning together. I believe that inclusion is definitely more than just a set of strategies or practices. It is an educational orientation that embraces differences and values the uniqueness that each learner brings to the classroom. An inclusive educator believes in valuing the student differences and supporting their needs, learning needs specifically, to the greatest extent possible. I am fortunate enough to have a diverse classroom and I strive to make it inclusive every day. So I'm going to share a few strategies that have worked with me. I think the most important one and the first one that I would like to share is making it really explicit that you want your class to be an inclusive space. Sensitize your children. This way, you will deliberately cultivate a learning environment where all children are treated equally, they have equal access to learning, they feel valued and supported in their learning. So here I would mention a circle time activity that I conducted in my class, which is actually a class of 30 children, but that day we were 29. So I made 26 chits, all in pairs of two, mentioning 13 different sentences. For example, my favorite color is yellow. So I made two of each. My favorite color is yellow. I wrote it twice on two different sheets. And then another statement was, let's have lunch together. Happy statements like these. And then I made three more chits and I wrote three mean sentences on those chits. I'm just going to quote what I wrote, but you can have your version of mean sentences. So I wrote, don't sit with us. The other one I wrote was, you can't be my friend, you're not amongst us. And the third one was, I don't like you. All right. So all chits were mixed together. The students were then asked to pick chits and find themselves a partner who has the same text written as on their chit. So all students, except those three students, found their partners and sat with them. So, post which we had a discussion around exclusion and inclusion. And I made those three students speak. How did it actually feel to not have a classmate along, by your side? How does it feel when you are sitting with your friends in the lunch hall and you have another friend who's sitting alone on the other tables and eating his or her lunch? So, this way, I made it very clear to my students that this is what I expect out of them. I want them to be inclusive. I want them to be that child who gets up from their lunch table and goes to that student who's sitting alone and says, come on, let's have lunch together. Right? So, another one that I would like to share here is about another strategy is about encourage students to complement each other. And I think one of the strategies that works really well in an inclusive classroom is have the students to share an island of competency with the rest of the class. For example, a student who enjoys painting but struggles academically can create a background for a poster that a class has to make, maybe for a party or for an event. So, encourage students to complement each other on their skills and their talents. In an inclusive classroom setting, all students must know that they can learn from each other. And the last one that I would like to mention here is about giving very clear instructions, more often in the language that your children are comfortable in. Students with hearing disabilities, visual difficulties must be closer to the speaker in the classroom. Let them sit or let them occupy the first seats in your classroom. We often talk and move through topics so quickly. We are all struggling with syllabus these days. And it's if you ask a question and a student doesn't respond immediately, just slow down, give them some time. And if they don't answer, try asking, would it help if I ask the question differently? Especially students with autism, they take time to process the question that you've asked. Please be patient. So I would like to conclude by mentioning about a very interesting version of our very own fun game of musical chairs. We've all grown up playing musical chairs, kitty parties, class parties, even today. Wherever we go, birthday parties, we play musical chairs. So, this version that I'm referring to is the Japanese version of the same game. So, you would still have 10 children, 9 chairs, and music to accompany the game. But the difference would be in the rules. And if any child playing the game remains without a chair, everyone loses the game. I repeat, everyone loses the game. And from experience, I can tell you that the children would shift, shuffle, hug each other to ensure that no one loses because they won't have a chair to sit on when the music stopped. So in the next round, you would have 10 children sitting on 8 chairs and so on. And you will see that they will still hold on to each other in the same way or the other to ensure that all 10 were seated. Now you have two versions of musical chairs. The first one, which is a traditional one, where each child learned that to be successful, you need to remove or exclude others. And in the second version, which is the Japanese one, the children learn to include everybody in their quest to find success. And that is the culture we need to imbibe in our children, that I cannot succeed without the help of others, without the help of my classmates. So, everyone, believe in inclusion, encourage your children to be inclusive, and see the magic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhumika ma'am. Very well said. There were seriously very good suggestions coming from your side to ensure inclusive learning, inclusive classrooms. And I was really impressed by your suggestion, like this game of the musical chair and complementing and how equality has to be ensured. And of course, we have to take special care of the specially abled children in the class. If we are going to ignore them, our purpose of classroom management will come to a fail. Okay, so moving further, our next panelist we have with us, and she is a seasoned educator with 25 years of teaching experience. She is the principal of SV High School, Chennai, Miss Chittu Rafish Kumar. She believes that a well managed classroom is the outcome of a well planned and well executed teaching strategy. So let us now welcome Miss Chittu Rafish Kumar.
Thank you, Manima. Good evening, all. I would like to first express my gratitude to AIEF and Mr. Matthew. Thanks for this opportunity. And already Ms. Mani had listed like why is classroom management necessary. So that was well said. So I'm just going to move forward. And Bhumika ma'am, really wonderful tips. And I like that chair activity. Really, I wanted to try in my school because we always think the usual way. So that was a good take home. Thank you. So coming back to our topic like classroom management. See, there are basically seven elements of classroom management which most of us know. So, the class design is the first thing, and then the ground rules, then the discipline, and then you have the timing of your session, like how well you place your schedule or the schedule your timing, and then your like organizing self and the students, then the teaching technique, and then comes the communication. So when we look into these seven elements of proper classroom management, implementing each one of them consciously may be a very tedious work, but knowingly or unknowingly, most of the teachers, effective teachers, they do this. So how do we do it, or how do they really do it? So the best thing is to select an apt teaching technique, or what you call a teaching strategy. I'm purposefully using these two words. So teaching strategy is what I'm going to insist. So what is this teaching strategy? Because whatever we have come across, very often a teaching technique and a teaching strategy, or what you call as teaching methodology and a teaching strategy, are mostly taken as one and the same. There are maximum points which are similar, but what I would suggest is one major difference. Whenever we talk about a teaching methodology, the point of view is from the content side. So, having content in mind, what you implement or what you're going to apply is teaching methodology. But when you have the classroom environment, that point of view, or from the point of view of classroom environment, then it comes the teaching strategy. So there are multiple teaching strategies available. So even when you Google subject wise, you have so many. But the tested ones, the tested, practiced ones. So we have to select those teaching strategies. So subject wise, we have different ones like four corners or fishbowl or Socrates chair or jigsaw. So think, pair, and share. So these are very commonly used teaching strategies which can be applied for any subject. So just to explain with an example, I would take up jigsaw activity over here. I'm a physics teacher by that is by profession, and you won't believe in class 12 I have applied this for a topic called as Van de Graaff generator. And even now, when my old students meet, they keep on telling, "Ma'am, we still remember Van de Graaff generator." So this is only one example. So there, like that, wherever I have applied teaching strategy, or when my teachers apply teaching strategy, I have felt that the impact is very big. So in this particular activity jigsaw, the teacher has to just divide the total classroom into multiple groups. Suppose if it is a classroom of 36, then the teacher has to divide it into 6 groups. So these groups are called as home groups. So the content which has to be taught, that must also be divided into 6 parts. So now, after the basic instructions given by the teacher, one student from each home group will be pulled out and they'll be made to form another set of 6 groups, what we call as expert groups. So now the total class has got reshuffled. Now, these parts, the content is now to be given to these 6 expert groups. So it is now up to the students to analyze the topic, to understand what it is, comprehend, explain each other, and then clarify their doubts with the teacher who's there to intervene, and then be ready with that. So that is the reason they are called as experts. Now they become the expert of that particular content. So this has to happen within a particular time limit. So after the time limit, then each these students will go back to their home group. So now if you look at the home group, there will be 6 students who are experts in 6 different topics or different parts of the topic. So once again, they repeat the same process and they ensure that everyone is clear with the total content. So everything is going to get over. The total topic is going to get covered in a matter of 20 to 25 minutes. But was the teacher just being there simply? No. She was continuously giving them instructions, guiding them, intervening, and clarifying their doubts. So active participation of the student and the teacher is happening over there. Fine. So the total content is delivered and the student was engaged. But where does the classroom management element comes into the picture? So the first one, what I said was about the class design. So instead of being the monotonous class design of the usual way, now this has become, say you had circles and then the children started moving here and there. So the dynamic classroom changes had happened over there. So the children feel impressed and engaged with this change. Then comes your like discipline and ground rules. So right from the point, the starting point to the end, a set of rules have been constantly being put up and it has been followed by the students. So there is no question of chaos or they have to listen. Their listening skills are getting improved and at the same time the discipline is being taken care. And the time management, unless the teacher plans it properly and gives them proper guidance, this is not going to be effective, which means the time management is also taken care. Then comes the communication. So instead of being always one sided, in this class, you have seen that 36 students are talking with each other, communicating with each other, conveying their ideas, agreeing, disagreeing. So it is a complete, the communication skill is completely taken care. Fine, having said that, we always talk about the positives, but there are certain possibilities for us to go wrong at some point. So, where can we go wrong when we implement a teaching strategy for our teaching? Say, the selection of the strategy is very, very important. If the teacher is not selecting a proper strategy for a proper content, then it will be a flaw. So the teacher has to be creative and she or he can implement more than one strategy in a particular classroom. Within that 40 minutes, 45 minutes, you have different strategies for revising, you have different strategies for writing, for teaching. So it is up to the teacher to select the topic and select the strategy. And at the same time, so selecting and implementing it in the particular time limit needs enormous planning or meticulous planning. So the teacher has to be on her toes and ensure that she plans every single minute. So if this is done, then the total class is well managed. And a well managed classroom is one where meaningful exchanges happen and every single student is engaged and they learn something in a progressive way. So if the teacher is clear in selecting a proper technique or proper strategy, and planning it properly and then implementing it with a particular time limit, then mark my words friends, all the students will be looking forward to your classes and at the same time you will walk out of the class with a pride that you have accomplished something. So selection of a strategy and implementing is the key word according to me. With that, I rest my discussion.
Thank you, Chitu ma'am. Beautifully, you have explained the difference between teaching strategy and teaching methodology. And of course, if a teacher is careful enough in selecting the desired teaching strategy, we will definitely have a well organized classroom, and at the same time, we will definitely get the desired results as well from the children, as well as we will be satisfied also at the same time. So, thank you so much. Okay, so moving further to our next panelist, we have Miss Elizabeth from Delhi. She is an educator having expertise in physics and math. She will brief us about differentiated teaching in the classroom. So, Elizabeth, ma'am, if you are here. Okay, so we will move on to Elizabeth, ma'am, in the next turn. Now, let us have our next panelist with us. Moving further to our next panelist, we have with us Mr. Ganesh Mitpalliwar. He is an eminent personality. He is the winner of Nachiketa Award, and this honor was given to him by our honorable former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He has a rich experience of 17 years, and currently he is the principal of Balaji English Medium School in Pune. So over to Ganesh, sir. Ganesh, sir, can you hear me? Sir, I think you need to unmute yourself. Okay, so there may be some technical problem at his end. We will move further.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So, okay,
Yeah,
sir,
ma'am.
welcome.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm really thankful to All India Educators Forum for giving this golden opportunity to share my views and thoughts on classroom management. It is rightly said that the destiny of the nation is made in the classroom. So that is why every teacher must know how to manage the classroom. When we talk about the classroom, of course, the students are also the part of the class. We have got the different levels of students and different types of students in the classroom. Some of them may be ADHD students, some of them may be the victims of autism as well. But I would like to share some of the techniques, and these techniques are proven techniques. I have personally applied these techniques in the classroom management, and I succeeded in controlling the class. And I also share the same techniques with my teachers as well. And we have got a good impact and result as well when the teachers apply these techniques in the classroom. One of them is watching the clock. Watching the clock, that means suppose the teacher is teaching in the classroom and some of the students are creating the disturbance in the classroom. So in this situation, what can be done? The teacher can point out the clock and say that as long as you talk in the class, or if somebody talks in the class, then that amount of time will be reduced from your play time. Whenever you will have a sports period, then that time will be reduced. So that is why it's better to keep quiet and listen to what I'm teaching here. So if the teacher gives such instructions, the children also pay attention in the classroom, because ultimately going on the playground, sports period is always the period that most of the students look forward. So that is why even the students don't feel like reducing the time from their sports period. So this can have a very good impact. Another technique that can be applied is if the children create a nuisance in the class, the teacher can clap 4 times in the air, and the students will also repeat. The teachers will give the instruction to the students, you also repeat. So in this way, we can draw the attention of the children, and if their mind get diverted, then okay, this technique will definitely help out to pay attention and just collect the concentration as well. Another technique that can be applied is, in the absence of the children, what they do, it may not be happening in every school, but mostly it happens in most of the schools. In the absence of the teacher, or if the teacher gets late, some of the children try to come out of the class, and all of them move. All of them move in the sense, 4 students, 5 students try to move out of the class. So what can be done? We can make the exit passes. One exit pass for girl and another exit pass for boy. So only one student can move with the exit pass. In case any child found without the exit pass moving in the corridor of the institution or anywhere, then that means action will be taken against those children. So this technique of classroom has proved to be a very effective, because it has been found that if you apply this technique, then you will not find the children stepping out of the class at all. So let the children go only with the exit pass. This will definitely help out to maintain the discipline also in the classroom. Another technique I would like to share with you is homework chart, homework display. So you can write the names of all the children on the homework display, and means those children who are very active and prompt in submission of the homework regularly. So you can mark the stars over there. It would be a weekly homework chart. Suppose tomorrow is the homework is given of science subject. If there are two children who haven't submitted the homework, they haven't completed the homework, then you will not give the star to them, and the maximum stars whoever will be given will be honored with the certificate, or will be honored with any award. So this can be done. So such techniques will definitely help out the children to get motivated. Another technique I would like to share with you is, suppose if you find little disturbance, if you find that some of the children are looking back here and there, so what can be done? You can say hello, then those students will say hi. I mean to say, if you repeat it 2 or 3 times, then okay, you will be in position to draw the attention of the children. Then you can make 3 cards. One is green card, another one is this yellow card, and third one is red card. So those children, when the teacher teaches in the class, those children who have understood the lesson, then they will hold up the green card, and those children who have understood to some extent, but okay, they need some more clarification, those children will raise the yellow card, and the children who haven't yet understood anything what the teacher has taught, then they will raise the red card. So what I mean to say, then how to decide whether the student have the problem in understanding the topic? Then the teacher can start the assessment. Yes, you have raised the green card. It means you have understood everything. So I would like to ask you something. Okay, the teacher will start the assessment, and then those children who are still struggling in understanding the concepts of the particular topic of any subject, then those children will raise the red card, so that the teacher will also come to know that these are the children who haven't yet understood this topic, and these teachers will have a different strategy to make them understand the topic in the better way. So another technique I would like to use, or the teachers can use in the classroom, is classroom rules and regulations. But mostly what happens, teachers make the rules and regulation for the children. It should not happen at all. So there should be a healthy discussion of between the teacher and the students. So what kind of rules do you want to be for your class? You tell me. So if there is an involvement of the children in making the rules for the class, it will be more effective, because they themselves have made these rules. So of course they know what they said. So they will be bound to follow these rules successfully. I mean to say, we can have a good impact of all these classroom rules when these rules are made with the involvement of the children. Then another one, every day we can have a different types of classroom codes. So like as I said in the beginning of my discussion, that the destiny of the nation is made in the classroom. So there are number of classroom codes. So we can write one classroom code against the green board or the blackboard, and we can say that means that the teachers have to take care that the quote, whatever quote is penned down against this blackboard or the green board, must be followed today. So there can be a watch of the monitor and the teachers as well. But this means, first of all, the teacher should make the list of the classroom codes, and means that then keep them with the monitor, and the monitor will write these classroom codes every day without fail. So the last thing I would like to share is peer assessment and peer learning. What is happening? There should not be a one-way communication at all from the teacher. There should be a two-way communication. So the involvement of the student is also equally important in the teaching learning process. So what can be done? That peer assessment and peer learning must be promoted. Let us divide the students into different groups, and tell the student that, for example, if the strength is 30 in each class or in any class, then divide the students into 5 groups, okay, with 6 students in each group. So then, they themselves will make the questions, and the particular, for example, A, B, C, D, E, these are the groups. A will ask B, then B will ask A, then C will ask D. So in this way, if they start asking the questions, among themselves, so that will create a good impact, and they will learn a lot. Similarly, peer learning as well. So I think, teacher has to be a facilitator also sometime. So in case, we promote this peer learning as well, I think, in peer learning also we have to take one care. That is, suppose if there are 6 students in each group, 2 students should be above average, 2 students should be below average, and 2 students should be average students, so that all the levels of the students will be in each group, and that will definitely help out all the children to understand the concept in better way. In case any major problem, if in case, it is out of the reach of the children to understand the concept, of course, teacher is there as the facilitator. So these are some of the these techniques, that can be applied in the classroom management. Thank you very much. But this classroom management is such a topic. Without this, I don't think the class will run very smoothly, and every teacher must know how to control the class and how to manage it. So thank you once again. I'm very thankful to All India Educators Forum for giving me this heavenly sent opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ganesh sir. We are really impressed. You had a lot of strategies with you. Like the class rules should be pretty clear. Children should also participate in making these class rules along with the teacher. Then the homework chart display strategy, exit passes strategy. So a lot of strategies you have with us. But there was a question. So would you like to answer that question, sir? That how can we
Yes,
use
ma'am. Yes,
this?
ma'am. No problem. Please.
Yes, sir. So how can we use this homework chart strategy for a class in which there is a strength of 40 children?
So instead of making one chart, ma'am, you can make 2 charts. Suppose, and you have to write the names of the students in the chart, and then afterwards, you can make 2 charts. And those children who are very regular in completing the homework, so you can mark the star over there. So whoever will get the maximum marks, so will be honored or will be given appreciation in the classroom.
Okay, sir. I hope Ms. Jaya raised this question, so her question is answered now. Thank you so much, Ganesh sir, for your time and for your precious opinion and all the important strategies which you shared with us today. So now we have Elizabeth. Welcome, sir. So now we have Elizabeth ma'am here with us. I'll again introduce her, and she is a physics and math teacher, and she is having an expertise in these 2 subjects, and she will brief us about differentiated teaching in the classroom. So over to ma'am Elizabeth.
Thank you, Ms. Mani Chaudhary. Thank you, ma'am, for that introduction. And good evening, everyone. It's nice to join you all on this esteemed panel. In continuation with all my esteemed panelists have been discussing, I would like to stress on differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction involves different ways of handling different students in the classroom according to their individual needs. So it helps us to recognize that each student is different and has a different ability to learn and has different needs. So how do we handle this? So we can have this by observing the students, and after that we approach their needs in a different way. It is a student-centric approach to teaching and learning. It focuses on how the student is learning and not how the teacher is teaching. The essence of this differentiated teaching is to bring out the best in each student. So let me give you a scholarly definition of what is this differentiated teaching. It was first, the originator of this idea or this concept is Carol Ann Tomlinson. It's good to know who got this idea, and because when we know her definition, it gives little authoritative source on the topic. She defines it in this way: whenever a teacher reaches out to an individual or a small group of students to vary his or her teaching in order to create the best learning experience possible, that teacher is differentiating the instruction. So there are various aspects to this differentiated teaching. So some are varying the content, varying the assessment, varying the process, and varying the learning environment. How do we do this? In our Indian context, we cannot much change the content because content is given to us and we teach that content. So we can, looking at the fast learner and the slow learner, we can choose what to give to a slow learner and what to do to what to give to an fast learner. Sometimes it requires that the teacher has to take a back step for the fast learners so that they'll explore themselves in the topic, and the slow learners have to be handheld to take them to the desired learning outcome. So I have a few examples in my experience. I sometimes recently when I taught them the chapter sound, there were some slow learners who could not understand what was happening in the class. So they were in their own context, in their own world. So I asked them to learn how sound is produced by giving them certain experiments. Just took a small piece of rubber band and vibrated it and asked them, I kept it near their ear and asked them, how is it produced? Then they said, by when you are striking it. So when I'm striking it, what is happening to the rubber band? It is vibrating. So that simple concept is driven into them so that the interest is generated. So this is one example of varying the content a bit so that reducing, I cannot say exactly reducing, altering our approach will help them to learn in discrete ways, like minimal ways to achieve their process. The second aspect of it is varying the process. So here, let me give you another example, live example, which I've experienced. I was teaching properties of refraction in a glass slab. And so there were a few students who could not visualize it. So we take them to the lab, do the experiments and all, and show them how the ray deviates and all that. But I have this year a set of 4 students who would not come to the lab at all. So I thought, let me take the apparatus to the classroom. So I took the apparatus, I asked them to come forward, guided them to complete the experiment. And it was amazing to see that they could finish the experiment in the most desired way and much better than the others. So that was a prompt for these children. And the next class they came to the lab, I asked them to do another angle, and then they completed it very well. Then I opened the book and I showed them, see, this is what you were supposed to learn in the textbook, but now you are learning it through this. Did you understand? So they made their own conclusions. So this is one approach of changing the process of learning. So then there in the classroom, there are fast learners and slow learners also. So we can make groups. This is also, I have an experience of making small groups and asking the fast learners to uh, teach the uh, slow learners. So what happens is the slow learner is learning in the peer group, and he is faster in learning. He is in a different setup. The teacher is not teaching, but the friend is teaching. So they are very, their atmosphere is different. So they learn better. This third aspect is varying the assessment. So I'm sure all of us are catered to this aspect, because we set a question paper, we set an assessment uh, that fits to the needs of everyone in the classroom, slow as well as the uh, fast learners. So we can also change this pattern a little by changing into diagrammatic questions, by demonstration, and asking them to do presentations, PowerPoint presentations. So when I did this in the classroom, there was immense response, and very actively the children were engaged in doing this. So I gave them a presentation, divided them into groups, gave one topic to the group, to each group, and each student had to put in one slide in it. They took a week to complete this, but they were excellent. They brought pictures, they brought data from all over the net, from their textbooks, and they went beyond their textbook learning. So this is when we vary the assessment, we also know that the teachers, the students are able to go beyond what we are expecting out of them. So the fourth aspect is changing the classroom environment. So during the classroom, where I also teach maths, so during the classroom environment, what I do is I change the orientation of the classroom into groups so that the students face each other. So after teaching them the concept, they work in groups to arrive at answers for different questions. This I have noticed helps them a lot. And this increases engagement. So the discipline issue of discipline is reduced to the minimum. This sort of differentiated teaching also has certain amounts of challenges. It's time consuming at times, and every student cannot be addressed, each and every student. I mean to say, you can't address 40 students. Maybe in the beginning we can address 10 students, and as the time goes by we can pick up. Simultaneously we cannot address all the slow learners all the time. So there is no particular way that one learns at all times. So there is no one particular strategy. So this class, when we look at the class, when we look at the students, so we can assess, keeping this in mind, that every student is at a different, runs at a different pace. Everyone has a different speed of reaching the goal. So these are certain methodologies that I use in the class, and I hope it will be useful. And they have been very effective. So I would like to I shared that with you. Thank you so much for the time, Mani.
Thank you, Elizabeth, ma'am. Wonderfully spoken. Definitely we need to ensure balance between the fast learners and the slow learners. And group activities are also a necessary element to ensure a good teaching and a good understanding takes place in the classroom. And children, what do children need? They actually need acknowledgement. They actually need some words of appreciation, and they need involvement. And that is all we require from the children, so that they can understand the concepts well, and our purpose also fulfills. So thank you, Elizabeth, ma'am. Now, moving further, we have one more reputed personality with us as a panelist. Our next speaker is from Tamil Nadu, Ms. Latha Jayaraman. She is a lawyer by profession with masters in political science. She has her own blog, and she is also an NUN advisor at her school. Today, she is going to talk about strategies to include classroom management tips into lesson plan. So over to Latha, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Mani. At the outset, I would like to extend my thanks to All India Educators Forum for having me as one of the panelists amongst eminent educationalists here. Many, many thanks. Classroom management, I think many of my fellow panelists also discussed, it's an ocean. There is no one particular solution that we can offer or one particular management tip that can work with all. But then I think here we are having an assortment of ideas, probably whichever suits our tailor-made classrooms that we are all having. We can probably incorporate them into our classroom if found appropriate. Usually, I feel lesson plan is our the roadmap by which our each teacher will have to be the driver to execute it through that plan. So having certain essential tips well planned inside our lesson plan would actually facilitate better execution to manage an assortment of learners. We know there are multifarious types of learners we need to cater to in every classroom. So a few tips that have worked really well for me that I have put forward here. Number one, as Mr. Ganesh had already spoken, one of the areas where I feel lesson plan really works is by accommodating a particular area or particular time to allow children to frame their own rules. I think most of the time, democratically, if it is executed, if it is planned and implemented, it works really well. Allow the students, give them the time, incorporate the time in the lesson plan so that they decide what has to be implemented as plan or rule or the consequences for any fallout in case. So that's one which he has already mentioned. Another thing is, see, particularly in the post COVID scenario, I think one-to-one a conversation between a teacher and a student and between a student and a student is actually lacking. Somewhere children tend to be a little recluse and withdrawn. So I feel activities should be carefully planned in such a way that facilitates a teacher student relationship, also a student student relationship. In case we are pairing students together or grouping them into different organizations, I think we need to ensure that they collectively talk with each other. We need to ensure that they talk with each other. Such kind of activities should be planned and included in the lesson plan. That really works well. And there are always, whenever an activity is planned, there are areas inside a classroom which is the potentially dangerous zone. I think the teacher has to take note of it, and in course of any activity that has been planned, she needs to be towards that side which tends to be a little notorious, or where the teacher's presence can make a difference in the delivery of that particular activity. That really works well. Marking where a teacher should stand should also be included in a lesson plan for any particular activity. That really helps. It has personally helped me as well while giving my activities to them. Another thing that worked really well, particularly in younger group of students, gamifying everything. So if at all an activity is planned, and if you put across an incentive scheme for that particular activity, getting the projects done at before the deadline is actually possible. So most of the time, research says that materialistic incentives for any child is not the right idea. So probably, a child gets to choose where to sit, during a picnic trip inside the bus, some such incentives whether she can, which place or which seat she should occupy, he or she should occupy on a particular day. Such incentives can be given as a reward or an appreciation note from the teacher. These, or giving them some virtual points which accumulates by the end of the academic year, they can redeem it in one of these ways. I think that way works really well. We can ensure that anything that's game related interests the learners. So I think we can get the project done in such a manner. And finally, I would also like to say that every lesson plan, any activity that we plan, should also have a standby, a just in case proposal should be made into our lesson plan, because most of the time when we go across with a plan, with an activity that we propose to execute, it so happens that sometimes network fails, sometimes the apparatus is broken. So a standby plan, yeah, just in such a case, classroom tends to be chaotic as we figure, as we do the troubleshooting for that particular activity. A standby plan, just in case plan, really works well. We should, as teachers, we should be having some standby for anything that may go wrong. That actually really helps as a very useful tip to manage particularly a notorious classroom. That's pretty much it. And all that I want to say finally is that the more time we spend, towards drafting a lesson plan, the lesser time that we, have to spend in executing it. Everything is all prepared, and it eases us as we implement it, and ease of management is also possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lata ma'am. Thank you very much. And it was a really good suggestion that we should have some kind of exigency planning in the lesson plan. And we should focus more on teacher student and student student relationship to get better results in the class. So, thank you so much. Now, let us move to our next panelist. She belongs to a state which is the home of cultural diversity, the largest state of India, Rajasthan. So we have with us Miss Monisha. She is a counselor and IB educator from Jaipur. She is passionate about bringing positive waves of change. She firmly believes that mental health is an integral part and a way of life. And today she'll help us in exploring how critical thinking in the classroom is going to be beneficial as it equips learner to gain different perspectives and convert information into wisdom, and how it is a valuable life skill. So over to Ms. Monisha.
Thank you, Mani ma'am. And I would like to extend my gratitude towards AIEF for giving me this valuable opportunity and taking the discussion forward. I would like to highlight that questioning is an essential skill. Curiosity has its own importance in life, which we all should inculcate in students as educators. And critical thinking is the art of thinking about thinking. We need to challenge our students. We need to create learning environments that is safe, and also it takes the creative and critical aspects ahead. Encouraging our students to connect the concepts together, to connect the dots together, it helps them to solve problems in an active and appropriate way. These skills that we develop in students, it helps them to evaluate and apply knowledge in all the areas, not only in the subjects but also in their everyday life. The students, they need to develop certain skills which will help them. If I mention briefly, it's about developing their communication skills, their problem solving skills, and their collaborative skills. Now, the question is, how are we as educators ready to help them and apply these strategies in our classroom? So, I'll help you in those strategies. Firstly, we all should ask questions to them. Asking questions means that we are developing in depth questioning strategies which will help inculcate critical thinking. Asking thoughtful questions is something that I personally encourage every teacher to do. Because if we ask questions which are very quickly answered, there is no scope of some good at length eye contact. The answer ends very easily and quickly. So, the best way is provoking questions which are thoughtful. And how are we supposed to do it? We are supposed to do by asking them some specifics about the topic. We can ask them certain alternatives. We can ask them how to look at a particular point in a different way. We can ask them to illustrate things with an example, and we can also ask them to correlate different topics together. By this, they will think about a topic more, they will also devise some solutions, and this will enhance their critical thinking skills. Secondly, the important strategy that we can use as teachers is we can ask open ended questions in our classroom instead of beginning our lessons with close ended questions. For example, we need to start a topic on weather or say climate. Now, if we ask our students that what do you mean by a climate or what do you mean by a weather, instead of asking, do you have you studied weather or climate in your previous class? So there is a difference, right? We can help our students by asking open-ended questions. Another strategy that we can apply is encouraging our students creatively. If we give all the art supplies to students and we ask them, now you can make a particular element out of it, or let's say you can make a snowman. So they can use different type of materials for that. Some can use cotton, some can use shading pencils, some can even use paints. So we let them develop their own form, their own style, instead of showing them samples and curbing their creativity. Also, we can give our students situational analysis. This is a strategy that works wonders. When we give situations to our students, we help them to think in a problem solving way, in a critical thinking way, because we ask them questions that are age appropriate, that are relevant to them, and we give answers, but we split different perspectives. So this allows thinking process to work for each and every student, and which is very helpful. We can also give our students some reflection time so that they think over different situations and perspectives. We can also ask them to interact with the peers because collaboration is an essential skills, one of the skill set, and it can only be developed once the students interact among their own groups. Another way of helping students in this particular area is developing their awareness. Awareness of surroundings will help the students to enhance their critical thinking skills. Lastly, I would just like to sign off by saying that critical thinking has lots of benefits. It helps a particular person to organize the thoughts in a structured and logical way. It helps to gain different perspectives and it also helps to gain awareness on various aspects of life.
Thank you so much, Monisha ma'am. Thank you so much for these good suggestions, asking open-ended questions, situational analysis, and definitely situation analysis will help them to collaborate well with each other. And if they are going to understand each other, they will understand the teacher, they will understand their colleagues, and then the output will be the wonderful and the best one. Thank you so much. Moving further, we are learning more and more from each panelist, a lot of new experiences, a lot of new strategies. So adding further to our learning, we have our next panel member, Miss Pooja Sharma. She is a PGT teaching economics in Maxford School located in Dwarka, New Delhi. She has 18 years of teaching experience and she is actively contributing in the field of experiential learning. So Dilwalo ki Nagri se let us welcome Miss Pooja.
Thank you, Mani ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be here today to discuss the classroom management strategies. So, as educators, we all know that a well-managed classroom not only enhances the learning experience, but it also helps to develop the trust and respect among the students and teachers. So, when we talk about classroom management strategies, what exactly are these? Now, effective classroom management requires a proactive approach to teaching by using positive reinforcement. I repeat, by using positive reinforcement and engaging the students in meaningful learning experiences. So I am excited to share my strategies and techniques for successful classroom management with all of you today. The first among them is establish clear rules and consequences. Now, this is required in the beginning of the academic session itself. It is not as simple as it has been said. The key rule here is don't give instructions, create inspiration. Have a circle time in the class, discuss the expectations and responsibilities of the students. Create a democratic environment, encourage the students to simply frame rules for themselves. It's like if you want to play a game, you must know the rules beforehand, right? So once the rules are framed, the next important task is for you is to document them. Don't let your mutually respected guidelines go forgotten. So you may call it as a mini constitution or a classroom agreement or golden rules. Take the signature of every student to make them feel accountable. Now, during this time, your role comes as a moderator, where you simply rephrase the rules decided by the students in the positive manner. That means if the students come up with a rule that we will not shout in the classroom, you as a facilitator will bring it down to we will talk softly. If they come up with a rule that we will not run in the corridor, you will bring it down to we will walk in the corridor. So all we mean to say is bring positive rules in the classroom. So, and consistently apply these rules and consequences to maintain a sense of fairness and to prevent confusion. Make circle time as a culture in your classroom where the students share their thoughts and emotions with you on regular basis. The next tool that or next strategy that we can have is foster positive relationships with students. Build rapport and trust with students to create a positive and supportive classroom environment. And here we have another rule. The rule is catch them doing right. The rule is catch them doing right. Please remember, actions which are appreciated get repeated. So reward students for their good behavior to encourage them to continue. Here we have a word of caution. When you are appreciating them, be generous, but be genuine. So I'll tell you how I appreciate my students in the classroom. Where I go to various classes, I carry an appreciation tree. I hope it is visible to all here. So this is a foldable appreciation tree which I carry with many fruits on it. If I'm going in the summers, I'll carry mangoes. If I go in winters, I'm carrying apples. So this is an apple tree here right now, which is an appreciation tree. So whenever I'm going to the classes, I give these appreciations as Apple appreciations to the students, and the students look forward to seeing their names on this appreciation tree. By the end of the day, distribute those apples so that you have fresh apples for the next day. And this really works, be that class 1 or class 12. This really works with students. In fact, even adults also like to be appreciated. So appreciation is one magic that you can create in the classroom. The third is use proactive strategies. Now, as you're dealing with young minds, a teacher has to be proactive. So anticipate potential problem behavior and take steps to prevent them before they occur. As facilitator, we need to address misbehavior promptly, deal with this particular behavior immediately to minimize the impact on the learning environment. Please remember, every deed you are sowing the seed. So with every deed, you are sowing the seed in the minds of the students. So how we handle those situations of crisis make a long-lasting impact in the minds of the young learners. So let us all sow the seeds of collaboration, cooperation, compassion, teamwork, empathy among the students. I'm sure these values are unlimited. Next, we have maintained and organized a structured environment. Now, as a facilitator, your role in the class is to establish routines and procedures to help keep the classroom running smoothly. I remember that particular quote here when somebody asked Michelangelo that how are you able to make such finer sculptures? And what an answer he gave. He said, every block of stone already has a statue inside. I simply remove the extra layer. So, as facilitator, we must understand every child has a genius inside. We just need to make him or her realize the potential and bring out the best version. Right. Another strategy we can have is, which is the most important one, is plan your class. Prepare a good content. Now, learn new courses to update yourself, to reinvent yourself. So especially after the pandemic, this has become the need of the hour for every teacher to reinvent herself. Here we have another key rule. And here the key rule is Content and intent both are important. So enter your class with a strong content and pure intent. Use storytelling as an aid. Storytelling has a magic. You can imbibe certain values through storytelling. You can connect the stories with the topic that you're going to teach, and children really understand them well. So enter the class with strong content and pure intent. Plan activities, use a mix of learning tools, encourage collaboration, participation, provide continuous and constructive feedback. I share my strategy. I wish had a tool to show it to you. I use voice meter in my classes. Now, what is voice meter? As I'm going to different classes, and definitely as we are moving towards experiential learning, we need to include certain activities in the classroom, and then we have to also see that discipline is also maintained. So I carry a voice meter which will have 3 levels. As low voice level, then we have a moderate, and we have a very very high noise level. So as teacher, when the students are engaged in the activities, through my non-verbal communication only, I will indicate what is the noise level right now and where it has to come back. So without saying anything to them, without intervening there, I convey my message as what is required in the classroom to be taken up. So the list is long, but I know the time is limited. So I conclude here only, and I'm sure by taking these steps, we can foster a sense of community in the classroom where each student feel valued and supported. So try these effective classroom management techniques to become a happier and more effective teacher. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pooja ma'am. Thank you so very much. So I am also inspired. Do not create instructions, create inspiration. And you should enter the class with a strong content and pure intent. So that's really wonderful. Well said. Thank you so much. Now, we will move further with our show and we will continue with the discussion. Our next panelist is from Jharkhand, Bokaro Steel City, Miss Sangeeta Mishra. She is a TGT Mathematics with 20 years of teaching experience, and she is also a certified school innovation ambassador. Today, she is going to share her thoughts about inclusive learning. She thinks that actively engaging all students in classroom activity can bring around desired learning outcomes, fellow feeling, and it also encourages teamwork. So over to Sangeeta ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Mani. And I begin with my gratitude to the All India Educators Forum to give me this opportunity to speak about the classroom management strategies. Good evening, panelists, everyone. I begin by defining what we mean by inclusive classroom. I think my fellow academicians here already have made it very clear what we mean by inclusive classroom. A classroom where we have variety of students and a variety of their needs, learning requirements. So it is always when we talk about variety, it is not only physical disability, it is also sometimes, sadly speaking, mental disabilities as well. So there are some students who are highly intelligent in the class. There are some who are slow learners. There are some who are retained students. There are some with gender bias and many more. So the challenge becomes very big because the class is inclusive and the teaching is diversified, differentiated. So we have to cater to the needs of all the students, all the variety of students in the class, which is definitely an Herculean task. Me coming from a very small town and sadly speaking, like the teachers, though the classroom have become inclusive, but the teachers have not been trained appropriately, if I may use the word, to deal with such classes. But with very, very strong, and if I may agree with Pooja ma'am's word, that with a pure intent, because we believe that the citizens of the future are being nurtured in the classrooms. So we take this here responsibility and then we frame our strategies to deal with every type of student in the class. So I would be discussing here about the strategies that I take to manage the classroom as well as to obtain the desired learning outcome in the classroom. So mostly because the class is inclusive and there are different academic requirements of the different students. So I mostly go by teamwork or buddy teaching or ICT tools we use normally in the class, because visual learning that sometimes appeal to the students and they are glued to the class because of that visual effects. We understand that when we show certain things, the interest is generated and is retained for a time, for a limited time. Because we also have time constraints in the class, so therefore we desire maximum learning outcome and in a given time. So I'll just share a small experiment that I do in my class, because we have a class of 50 students. It's a huge class. So we divide the students in groups of 10, and then we perform some activities to attain the learning outcome. Now, I was teaching say, surface area and volume of solids in the class. Then I divided the students in different groups. And then I told them that you pick out any solid that you see in your bag and then try to find out the surfaces, then name the surfaces, name the shapes that you see on the surfaces. And then once we see the shapes, then you write down the shapes, then write down the areas, then we will go on to find out the surface area of that particular subject, and then we will add the volume concept to that. So when we were discussing surface area, the children were very enthusiastic. They brought out geometry boxes, they brought out erasers, they brought out pencils, they brought out marbles, some brought out that cricket balls and all. So once we say that bring out the certain solids or the shapes that you see on the smartboard, we run the smartboard simultaneously. And then they took them out. Then one student was supposed to write the names. The other students were writing the shapes. And then the third student was calculating the area of every shape that he could see. So there, like the teacher only had to go around and check whether the students were doing the work. So this type of activity engages the students in the class. They are like excited to bring out things from the box, because they could never imagine that in mathematics also, like, we can see things, we can carry things which are there in the bag and we can learn from it. So these are some activities. Then the children with special needs. There are some children with special needs. So for them, we team them together with the student with high IQ, the students who are fast learners. Or sometimes, because see, sometimes it could be that the students are fast learners, but they are not so sympathetic with the students. They don't show much empathy, because we may have different type of students. There are some students who are average learners, but they are empathetic. So we bring out those students, we make them sit with the children with special need, and then we make them work together in groups. So for all these activities to work out smoothly in the class, a lot of homework is required. And that is our challenge. So we plan the lesson on day-to-day basis, as well as on weekly basis, and further monthly basis. So what is the content that we need to teach in the class? We plan that. Then how we are going to design the class according to the requirement of the content teaching, and to get the learning, to attain the learning outcome. So that part also, because see, you have a 40 minutes a period and you have 50 students to cater. You have to explain the concept, and you also have to involve the students in the teaching and learning process. So these are all very big challenges for non-trained teachers. But still we do it, and we incorporate the different 21st century skills. Those fortunately CBSE has given us the manual. So we incorporate those 21st century skills, like we promote teamwork, team learning, we promote communication, we promote collaborative learning, and then we incorporate the use of this computer technology, ICT tools, which we normally would call it. So we incorporate all of these in the classroom at different levels. I would not say that on a specific day, on a particular day itself, we do that. But as per the requirement of the class, we do incorporate all those things simultaneously, as according to the lesson plan, as we plan and as our needs are. So we incorporate all those things in the classroom to obtain the desired learning outcome. Now the question is that are every time the learning outcomes are attained? No, it is not. Many a times you go with the planning in the class and then you suddenly see, as again I'll agree with Pooja ma'am, as she said, that we must have a backup always. So once it happened with me that there is a student with a little like Down syndrome, I would call it. He had Down syndrome, and then that we went to the class, we came to the class with a particular plan, and then a period before, that particular student was handed over a fee challan where there was some punitive fine fees in that fee challan, and he was so disturbed by that. He throughout the period he kept tugging to my pallu and was adamant to make me explain why that fees is that fine was imposed on him for late coming in the school, whereas the same thing was not there in the previous school where he had studied. So you see, you may go with a plan, but then you may just fail. So we also need to have time. We also need to have plan B. So that day, the entire strategy of my class management failed because of the disturbance created by one student. But I would not call it a disturbance. We will have to be patient. We will have to be stern, but we will have to be sympathetic as well. So all these classroom techniques, classroom management techniques to work, we will have to start preparing the class from day one. So we first sensitize the class. Then first week of the session, we actually get to know the student one-on-one. So that when you know the students well, when you know the behavior of the class, when you know about the students' requirements, when you know the type of students, then only you will be able to plan a lesson well, then only you will be able to make your strategies well, and then implement it in the class for a better behavior or the better management of the classroom. So we do, all of us, we have, as the topic requires, as the learning objectives require, so we may change the class according to that. And we have so many tools available. We have so many people to approach to get to, if we are inadequate in dealing with some strategies, inadequate in dealing with some type of deformities, we always get help from others. The school always supports us. So we can, of course, manage the class. We only have to be a little sympathetic. We will have to be patient. We will have to be stern. And we will have to understand the temperature of the class. We will have to understand the students of the class. And then I believe that the class can be managed. And the students are, at the end of the day, all human beings. So all of them definitely love affection. All of them love to be pampered. So you just have to go with pure intent and a positive mindset in the class. And the class can definitely be managed. And at times, if the class is not managed, sometimes we do need to ignore, because the classroom is at the end of the day a mini like house only. So there also we do have some disturbances and we do ignore. If it is not something major, we can sometimes ignore those little disturbances in the class and can focus on the positive outcome that can happen. So we should look forward to the teamwork, to collaborative learning. And then once we imbibe positive behavior in the class, we also have to be like that, because we also have to first show the positive attitude. If you go with a positive attitude, if you go with loving and affectionate behavior, the children can understand. They can obviously see you and then they can judge what is my intent. And hence the class definitely behaves as according to your requirements. So far in my 15-20 years of teaching experience, I have never experienced in very unruly class. It was always conducive, it was always nice. And because, as again Pooja ma'am said, that if your intent is pure, it is reflected on your face and of course in the environment. So we go with a positive environment and we inculcate positive learning environment in the class. We build teamwork. We build collaborative, proper communicative and collaborative environment, and the classroom is manageable. That is how I believe. That is what I believe. So far, I have experienced my classes have never been very unruly. So either thank God and thanks to the attitude and the experiences.
Very well said, Sangeeta ma'am. Very well said. Thank you so much for sharing your thought and opinion.
Can I
And,
end with one line? Can I
yeah,
end with
sure,
one
ma'am.
line?
Sure.
Yeah, like
Sure.
like with a very positive note कि कौन कहता है कि आसमान में सुराख नहीं हो सकते, एक पत्थर तो तबीयत से उछालो यार.
I'll tell you.
Isn't that? So thank you everyone,
Yes,
and thank you so
wonderful.
much for
Thank you
sharing
so
all
much.
the valuable
So,
inputs.
knowing your children well is the key to success for a teacher, and student engagement has to be ensured in the class, and the energy of the children, we need to channelize it properly. So, now we have with us our next panel member, Dr. Purnima Upadhyay. She is a TGT Social Science. She has a rich experience of 16 years of teaching, and she is actively involved in teachers training program. And she is also an expert in developing curriculum. Let's hear her valuable opinion. Over to Ma'am Purnima. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Okay, am I audible? Okay, thank
Yes,
you, Mani
ma'am. Yes.
ma'am. And thank you, All India Educators Forum, for providing us this platform where I'm just here from 6:30 only, and I'm hearing all of are giving so many good strategies and valuable experience by which we can make our classrooms more interactive and beneficial for our students. So, good evening, everyone. I am Purnima Upadhyay, and I'm sharing my views that how multiple assessment strategies, that is a collection of simple assessment strategies, we can use in our everyday classrooms, and which will help in classroom management also. So, the focus of classroom management in 21st century switches from maintaining behavioral control of the students to encourage students in constructive activities and inculcating self-development and civic responsibility. But what we find as a teacher, and I think everybody is going to be agree with this, that after post-COVID environment, we find a drastic change in our children. Like we face the problem of absenteeism. That is one major problem, because when absenteeism is there, child is going to lag behind in the syllabus, in the concept, and as a result he or she find himself detached from the classroom also, isolated in the classroom, because he don't know what is going on. For example, suppose maths may a teacher started with algebra and child missed the first class, so he is not going to cope up with the other classes of maths also. This is one thing what I'm finding. So absenteeism is one major problem. Then we are finding that children are like not ready to listen anyone. They feel like they know everything, because during this COVID time they are so much like connected with the all the these technology, these gadgets. So they find if everything is there on net, if teacher is not there, if parents are not there, we can everything search from net also. There is no need to go to school. Restlessness is also there, because they are not ready to listen to anyone. So what should be done in this scenario is, first of all, what I observed, and I started my classes during this post COVID time, is first of all we have to make a connect with the students, make them feel comfortable in the class. For this, what we can do is we can use multiple strategies. Academically, assessments are there, definitely pen and paper test is there. Apart from this, whatever good we are observing from our students, like the other part, the other side of the coin is they are very much aware. If we see, they are very much you can say empathize with the environment, what is going on. They are very much tech savvy, they are good than us also. At times they tell us, ma'am, you can do this app, and you can use this app to download certain different applications in your system also. So this is the good part. So as a teacher, our role is to bridge that gap. Now how we have to make them to come to a particular, like we have to divert their energy from distraction to constructive energy. So time to time we have to do appreciation. First of all, that is what I feel like if they are good in something. Suppose if I started some topic like water conservation I have taught. So if I'm finding a child is just in the corridor, and I'm finding a child is just closing the tap after using the water, that is one value he or she is showing. Apart from this such type of assessments, you can do it and you can appreciate it when and wherever it is required. And why not to, if other activities you have observed by the student, you can just share it in the PTM also. Your child is very good, he's very respectful, He listens all instructions, he follow all instructions. So these are some strategies by which child get feel motivated also. Respectful, that is all what we all also want. As a human being, we also want that we should be respectful, we should get recognition. Same thing our children also want. So they get connected with the teacher also. They find that teacher knows me very well. Like earlier we said, no, the teacher is the second mother. Like mother is at home and the teacher is the mother at school also. This is what we can deliver. Fine. So apart these type of activities we can do. Apart from this, what I'm finding is nowadays we have to make our teaching experiential learning. Children can relate everything more with what is happening every time. Like whatever is happening. Like for example, like recently, like I started one chapter, that is judiciary chapter. I'm a social science teacher, and by chance it happened that Joshimat news is there in the news. So children are very much aware. They said ki ma'am, why Supreme Court is saying that they are not going to interfere in this particular case. So I said, because High Court, this is the jurisdiction of the High Court. So I realized that now children are very much aware, and even I have to study about this case. And it happens that I have to study all about it. Then children ask, and man, what is the role of the natural disaster management team? What they are doing? Ma'am, what is the role of the Supreme Court? What is the role of the High Court? What the government is doing? What the insurance companies are doing? And I feel very thankful also, because even my knowledge also enhanced. Because normally I'm going to just see the news, I have watched the news and it's okay. But when I just started watching that news, researching that news from the perspective of my students, I find it very different. And it helped a lot my students also. So this is what we have to come up with, and children get attached to it. Even the students who are not taking interest, because they have heard about Joshimat, they've heard about it, what is there, and they get connected with that topic also. So these multidisciplinary activities, strategies also we can inculcate, we can include in our lesson planning also. Apart from this, for example, like I started one topic and I'm just sharing whatever I am doing it in my class. So normally I start a topic, like for example, constitution. So I just open it to all, like, what do you understand by this term constitution? Some says, ma'am, it's a book. Some says, ma'am, some laws are there, but we don't know much about it. Some says that they related Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Fine. Everything is fine. So the first question in the class should be okay for everyone. So child will feel comfortable. Let them say, you can speak whatever you want. You know about constitution. Even if you know the spelling of constitution, that is also fine. So this is how you can make children comfortable in the class and they feel recognized. They feel positive. Okay, fine. My answer is also not wrong. So this is how children will feel accepted in the class. And in a class of 40, we have different levels of students. So no answer is wrong. It all depends upon that how we are asking a question. In one of the, I'm just sharing one more point. Like one teacher started with a topic air, and she asked, or he asked that, okay, fine, just tell me which is very important for you for your survival. A child says, mom, my mother, and that child is not wrong. That child is not wrong, because definitely for him, that mother is very important for that child. So here asking question is also very important, that what do you expect from the student? What answer you expecting? So don't say no to it. Then again, you have to come up with some other questions, and then you will get your right answer from the students. So these are some strategies. Apart from this, one more thing is I would like to say, please, when we just scold our students and we write that not brought notebook, not done this work, why not we are appreciating them for their good work? He has improved his writing. He is now very attentive in class. These little things are going to motivate the student. and he or she feels recognized in the class also. So the what I feel like as an educator is we have to change our perspective. We have to see things in a different way. Why not to find the qualities of our children and enhance those qualities? So I just ended this because already I am very I've heard Lata ma'am also, Monisha ma'am also, Pooja ma'am also, and wonderfully they all have said. So I'm just ending it. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Purnima ma'am. So all what we need is we need to divert the energy which is creating destruction, and that energy should be utilized in such a way so that the children can become more constructive and more creative. And we also need to bridge the gap between the teacher and the student, which has been created in these COVID years. And finally, positive feedback is definitely required to motivate the children, and this is a way of positive motivation. Thank you so much, Purnima ma'am. Next, we have now, let me take you to the heart of India, as our next panelist is from Madhya Pradesh, Ms. Shobha Vijayan. She is a PGT Mathematics from St. Xavier Senior Secondary School, Bhopal. With her thoughts, we enrich our knowledge and we get to know that how understanding students' behavior helps in better classroom management. She is into the teaching profession for last 31 years, and during this span of time she had met with different behavioral issues, and these behavioral issues have are actually responsible, because of which she is going to share a lot of experiences with all of us, and we are going to enrich ourselves with her opinion. So over to Shobha.
Thank you, Mani ma'am. I thank AIF for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences. Very good evening to all the distinguished panelists. I sincerely appreciate the interesting suggestions put up by all of you. Out of my long span of dealing with the students, I had certain observations and experiences which I thought of sharing here. When it comes to classroom management, the most challenging area these days, that is in the post-COVID scenario, is to tackle the students' behavior in the classroom, to help them learn what we teach in the class. I'm sure most of the teachers do agree with this. If we try to list the behavioral issues that we come across, which actually disturb us, and actually which we need to be managed, the very common and prominent ones are lack of interest, distraction in the classroom, which make the students start talking to each other, side conversations begin, then attitude towards the teachers, not able to sit down and concentrate for 40-45 minutes of time, one period. This has become very common issue in almost all the classes. We teachers might be trying our best to put up our lessons in the best possible way, repeating the things again and again to make them understand, try different methodologies, but we may not get a proper or a desired response, no learning outcome. And in this case, sometimes it happens that it is not only in one classroom. When you go to the next classroom, the same is the condition. Yet another class, yet no difference. Now, when this happens with a teacher, class after the class, again and again, it is obvious that we may get disturbed, and many times we may start losing our temper. But no, we should not get angry. After all, we are teachers. Then what? We must take a pause in such a case, relax. The first thing I feel we should do is to assess our lesson plan. Check if you need to apply some new strategy, something that will stimulate the learning. Not necessary that what you have planned has to be applied there. Remember, we should be ready to try some new strategies every time. We must be able to diagnose the learning problem in that situation actually. They may not be able to understand the lesson. The first thing that should come to our mind is why it is happening. Different factors may be responsible, like lack of goal. The child may not be knowing why he is learning. Why this lesson? There is a lack of motivation. and not able to connect with the previous knowledge. Sometimes it may be family issues, parental pressures can be there, family expectations may be high, and so on. And this leads actually a child to anxiety, a state of anxiety, social anxiety, emotional anxiety, panic attacks. These things have become very common these days. And such a child show lack of energy, low esteem, a kind of loneliness. And after they have returned from the COVID lockdown, I must say this has become very, very common. Most of you will agree to it. Actually, if you look at the matter, we'll observe that there has been a drastic change in their learning capacity. Now, what has actually happened? A sudden change in their lifestyle. That too was forced into them during the COVID lockdown. And the duration was not small, not even 3 months or 6 months, 2 complete years. It is not a small duration for a growing child. It was their age of formation which got disturbed and disbalanced, I should say. Keeping all this in mind, we must be very carefully planning or designing our lesson plan. Instead of simply, we must keep in mind that instead of simply pouring down the informations or instructions, we need to inculcate the skill of learning in the students. And it can be done effectively by showing care and concern for the child. We need to establish a relationship with them. So I'll give an example, like when we go to the class, we can divide the class into small groups of 4-5 students. Like other panelists also suggested this, it is a good suggestion. But when we make the groups, we must take care that all the types of students should be there in each group. They may be slow learners, good grasping children, active ones, introvert types, all of them should be included in each of these groups. Then create as many activities as we can and be given to the groups in the classroom. We can begin the class by giving a small briefing of the lesson and then give 10-15 minutes of time to read and relate the portion from the book. After that, we can allow for an open discussion. Keep motivating the children wherever and provide support by guiding them wherever needed. During this time, maybe the noise may go high. One of our panelists told noise meter can be used, or we can use some way to some actions to tell them that the noise.
I think there is some internet connectivity issue at the end of Shobha ma'am.
Yeah, that's right. I think she's lost her connection. So we'll just wait for a minute or so. If she's able to come back, then we'll get her
But
on
anyway,
board.
it was really going great. And we were having good
Yes.
suggestions, good strategies coming from the side of all the panelists. It was really great to have all of you here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for the wonderful session, for the strategy shared. And I think we kept the timing, and there was a lot of engagement, lots of ideas, and from the beginning to the end. And congratulations to you for moderating the session, and to all the speakers who gave in so much of their ideas, their experience, and expertise in making this session something which was very wonderful and something I'm sure is going to be watched by hundreds and thousands of educators across India in the coming days. And I am looking forward to your contribution in growing this All India Educators Forum community, in sharing your experience and expertise to more and more educators so that we can bring in more educators in our fold and let the learning continue. So it's over to you, Mani ma'am. You can wind up, I think, since all the speakers are done. Yeah.
Okay. So to conclude this panel discussion, I would say, when educating the minds of our youth, we must not forget to educate their hearts. Students may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. We as educators have the responsibility to shape the character, the caliber, and the future of the individual. So thank you so much for participating in this panel discussion. Thank you, Thomas, sir, for giving us this opportunity. And thank you, viewers, for watching us and for taking out time for all of us. Good night. Keep smiling, keep learning, and be blessed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Thomas, sir.